Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa Siegel. I'm a professor of migration studies, and this is a channel about all things migration. Now, today we are going to do something a little bit different than what we normally do on this channel. So normally I am talking about different migration phenomenon. I am explaining terminology. I am explaining how things work in practice, or maybe a specific country case study. But many people know that, of course, I am a professor of migration studies, and I get a lot of questions about what does my daily work look like. So of course I have my normal professorial duties at the university, but I do a lot of work outside of the university. So I give a lot of trainings, I give a lot of policy advice. I work all around the world. I work with different governments and international organizations. So what I thought I would do is to take you on a trip with me. So many of you know that I work at Maastricht University and the United Nations University Merit, that is also based in the Netherlands, but I do a lot of work around the world. And in this case, I am in Armenia right now, teaching a migration summer school sponsored by the European Union and implemented by the International Center for Migration Policy Development, maybe better known as ICMPD. So I've actually been teaching in this summer school for the last 10 years. So it's not always in Armenia. The summer school has also been in a number of other countries. It's also been in Georgia, it's been in Azerbaijan, and it brings students from many different parts of the world and the region. So for this summer school, we have students from Georgia, Armenia, Moldova, Kyrgyzstan, and Ukraine. They are master students or bachelor students or PhD students. Sometimes they're working at NGOs, and sometimes they're also coming from different governments. So maybe they're working in ministries of interior, or they're border guards, or many other things. So this group is actually quite mixed, and we give a general sort of introductory summer school on a number of different migration topics. So I personally am giving an introduction to migration studies in the first week. I also give a lecture to the full group on migration and development. I run a number of workshops also on migration and development, but covering topics like diaspora and diaspora engagement, migrants and skills, migrants and gender. And then I also run a workshop on migration and development and migration governance. So there are a lot of different things that we're doing within this summer school. Of course, I'm not the only one teaching here. I have 4 other fantastic colleagues who are also lecturing and teaching here with me at this summer school. That is pretty typical of a summer school setup. So I have the fantastic Ron Skeldon, who's also here teaching on things like migration governance, economics, and demography of migration. Also Galina Cornelesi, who's teaching on migration law, and Elizabeth Strasser, who's teaching on integration and citizenship, as well as my good friend Rob McNeil, who teaches on migration in the media. So really a fantastic bunch of colleagues to be teaching a summer school like this with. But I just want to give you a bit of a glimpse into what I do in a typical week like this. So let me take you along with me. Of course, first of all, it takes a while to get to Armenia from the Netherlands, or at least where I live in the Netherlands. So I left my house in Maastricht, where I live, early in the morning and arrived in Yerevan, so the capital of Armenia, late at night, or actually early in the morning the next morning. And this is with stopover, so within my job there is a lot of travel, buses, trains, planes, cars, many other ways to get to the places that I need to get to. Of course, as much as possible, I try to use the most environmentally friendly options, but that is not always possible and not always practical. So in this case, I took a bus to a train, to a plane, to a plane, to a car. We're staying in a hotel outside of Yerevan, so about an hour and a half away from Yerevan in the northeast of the country. So one of the nice things about my job is that I not only get to see different countries, but I also get to see different regions of the countries. And where we're staying right now is actually quite high in altitude. It's an area where people actually come to ski in the winter time. And even though it's quite warm in Yerevan right now, it is actually pretty chilly up here, but it's also quite beautiful. So we started on a Sunday, and I started by giving the kickoff lecture on an introduction to migration studies. So on the second day of the summer school, we had lectures on international migration law and the economics and demography of migration taught by some of my colleagues here. And in the afternoon, there was a workshop organized by my colleague Rob McNeil from the University of Oxford, looking at perceptions of migrants and migration. In a summer school like this, ICMPD is really great at making sure that the students get to do also fun things and have different ways of getting to know each other. They also always organize something fun in the evening before dinner. On the third day of the summer school, we kicked it off with another colleague teaching on integration and citizenship. Then I took over afterwards and taught on migration and development. And then in the afternoon, we have a number of breakout sessions and workshops. And that's where I and my other colleague, Ron Skeldon, who also works at Maastricht University and the University of Sussex, gave a joint workshop on migration and development. And we do that over a number of days. So we covered diaspora engagement in our first workshop day. Then on day 4, the day kicked off with a colleague giving lectures on asylum and temporary protection. And then after that, another colleague, Rob McNeil, again giving a lecture on migration and the media. And then again in the afternoon, having workshops again where Ron Skeldon and I were running a workshop on skills with regard to migration and development. The 5th day, we kick it off in the morning with a lecture on migration governance. Then we run a joint workshop on migration governance and migration and development, where we specifically actually talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. And we talk about how migration is related to the Sustainable Development Goals. And then again, finally in the afternoon, we again have our workshop on migration and development, where we specifically cover issues around migration and gender. Now, I've covered many of these topics on the channel, so I will also make sure to list the videos that are relevant for many of the topics that I've just talked about also in the description. Of course, we do fun things, as I said, on some days. ICMPD generally always sets up at least one excursion for the period that we are here to get to maybe see something cultural, something local. And in this case, we got to go to a lake to have a traditional dinner out. So that's another one of the, I would say, nice perks of my job. Is that, it's not always just work. We get to also see quite nice things and learn more about different cultures, different histories of countries, and get to see maybe not only the capital cities of countries, but other more rural areas and different parts of countries.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Finally, on the Friday or the final day of the summer school, we do a roundtable on integration, where we have debates and discussions about integration in many countries. Then again, my colleague Ron Skeldon talks about the future of migration. And then, of course, we make sure that the students all get certificates and get to have a kind of goodbye and we enjoy it. And then there's always a kind of final party in the evening where everyone gets to enjoy before leaving, often very early in the morning, again to go back to all of our countries, because of course we came in from a lot of different countries. My colleagues also from ICMPD came from many different countries, but also from the headquarters in Vienna. So that's just a little bit about this week. It's not only work, but a little bit of play and getting to enjoy also other things within the job. So I hope this gave you some insight into a typical week in my life, at least for teaching a summer school. If you'd like to see more videos on this kind of content or a day in the life or other things like that, let me know and I am happy to create them. But that's it for now. I'm signing off from Armenia and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.